Hello, welcome back to the ministry. And today I'm speaking on something that the Lord showed me. I'm trying to make sure that I get all of the parts correct. So, this is what I saw. This is a combination of a dream and something that the Lord put in front of my face in relation to marriage. Okay? There is a level of, I can't even call it a hindrance because God's removing the hindrance, but as it's being removed don't mean that it was going in peace is pretty much what I'm feeling about this situation. I had one of the weirdest dreams. Lord, how much you want me to go into, because part of it I won't even going to talk about in this word at all. So I'm seeking the Lord how he want me to address this. We just gonna flow. Number one, what I am sensing is that, and let me make sure, Lord, make sure that words I'm speaking, all of you, that you are rising. You have come up to a higher place. But in you coming up to this higher place, there are things, circumstances, scenarios, and things that do not want for you to recognize the higher place that you've come to with God. Okay? And this is just something that naturally happens because every time you elevate, there's almost like a concerted spiritual effort to keep you where you were, or keep you believing that you have not exited this previous situation that you was in because you spiritually shifted, but the situation around you has yet to match it. Okay? Okay. So with that being said, as you elevated in the midst of this process, there's almost a element that resists you. And in the dream, I was seeing that I was in a film scenario. I'll say that much. It was like I was watching yet participating in a film as it was happening. The protagonist character, the characters that were in the midst were people that have spiritually represented familiar spirits but have operated against me in reality. And I was fighting and kicking butt in this. That is what we do in the spirit realm when we stand in the gap, whether it is for our marriages, stand in the gap for certain shifts in our lives, standing in the gap. I was kicking butt. But I also noticed it was two other characters that were in this film. I saw a woman that represented Neve Campbell's character in the Scream films. And I know why I saw her. Because her character was always the one that was fighting to I made a video talking about this where I talked about the movie Scream represents killing the generational curses. It's literally what it represents. And Neve Campbell's character was always the one that was fighting against the person that was trying to come back to kill her, if you recall. God be using some of the weirdest things to speak to me and through it about certain things. But she was always, if you ever seen that movie series, she was always the person, the thing would come at her and she would knock it out. One kick, she knocked it in the floor. Because 9 times out of 10, these were doofy people that were coming after her. And she knew how to fight. And over the years, she became a better and better fighter because it's like she knew that these fights were coming anyway. Because every generation, somebody would come to test her just specifically against the generational curse in her family. Pick up what I'm putting down. So I saw her. Then I saw the woman from Tomb Raider. If you've ever seen the movie not Tomb Raider, Terminator. The woman in Terminator, in the first Terminator, resembles Neve Campbell. Now, I saw her. And then, in the midst of it, I saw myself. And I don't know whether I was fighting as them in my own body, or I was just fighting because I was fighting against certain things that had come against me. Meaning I was taking out the things that were a lot, and I was ripping these people apart. But the irony is the Lord let me see what they saw when they were coming against me. And to them, I looked like the reptile. I looked like the evil thing. I looked like whatever it is. But think about it. If you are the generational curse breaker who is breaking the spiritual curses in your family against your bloodline, all these things simultaneously, and I'm talking about, I was snapping necks, I was killing everything. The thing that you're coming against sees you as a threat to it. So for them, they were loading up shotguns and everything coming after me. And they saw me as some type of reptilian creature that they needed to kill, what have you, and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, y'all attacking me, and I'm attacking y'all, and we both sitting there. You see what I'm saying? But what it is your enemies see you as a threat to them. And all you're doing is breaking the curses. You're breaking whatever it was that these individuals represented in your life. For some of you, maybe it was an abuse of some sort. Maybe it was a verbal abuse. Maybe it was a physical abuse. Maybe it was a spirit of false evidence appearing real. Whatever that is, but you were breaking it. You were snapping the necks. You was taking it out. And they're trying to take you out for destroying them. Is that making much sense? But I recall seeing the one woman, she was standing there, and then there was two standing next to her. But I realized the two that was standing next to her, it was the same woman, but under two different frames of time. Okay? And these two women were fighting against one another. One represented the beginning of a thing, while the other represented the end of a thing. Okay? And these two were at odds with one another. Now, you could look at this as the counterfeit versus the real thing. You could look at, because they were identical to each other, because in all actuality, I knew what I was looking at. Each woman that I was looking at was two different phases of this one woman. But remember something. You could look at it in two different formats. That the counterfeit wants to look like you. She wants to be your identical. She wants to take your spot and your position, right? So these two coming face to face to one another. One had on the wedding dress. One had their hair done for a wedding. While the other one was the beginning. I'm also reminded of the scripture that talks about the first will be last, the last shall be first. The one woman represented the first. And in some cases, the counterfeit was before you, but they tried to emulate, look like you, do everything like you, to be a replica of you, so on and so forth. But the real thing, which is the last, the end, the one that will be exalted, have been in a fight with one another. All right? For the position of taking the spot, but you had to what? Fight. I was in a fight. And the thing I noticed is I was standing on top of a framework. And I was at the top of it. And these things that were trying to shoot me, they were trying to shoot me down. They were trying to get me to come down. Nehemiah standing on the wall. Ezra 4:5-6. Nehemiah was building the wall, and Sanballat tried to get him to come off the wall by sending multiple messages, threats. I need you to come off the wall. Your enemies have been trying to fight you, shoot you down, trying to pull you off the wall. Okay? Take you out, remove you from your proper position to get you to come out of agreement. Whether it was to get you to come into agreement with thoughts, thought processes, being in places that you should have left by now. And some of you, the reason that you've been being shown that you are in places you should have left is because you have to fight that battle for your spouse spiritually, because they also have been in places too long that they should have left, and understanding what those places are, because you may be able to spiritually understand something that they don't, is what's keeping them hindered. Whether it was, I was listening to a great word by Pastor Ruckins McKinley the other day, and he was talking about the things that hold up Christians, understanding the truths between certain principles, principalities, witchcrafts, all of these kinds of things that hold us up, whether it's operating under wrong mindsets, thought processes. He went in depth about it. That hold us up. But I noticed that in the dream, I was standing at the top of this framework. A lot of us have been setting the foundation and building a framework to prepare us. Why you think that I set up the words that I've set up the way I've set them up weekly since I released the year of the word of the Lord for this year, the way I have set them up, because I wanted to make sure I was giving you the information that you need in order to prepare you to think properly, so that you were able to build the what? Framework. And it's funny because it was almost like it was built like a pyramid, but it was a frame, an actual frame for something that was built, that was being built up, that could be steps to step up on or step upon to go up. And as you notice that as you're climbing steps, climbing a mountain, it does not get wider the higher you get. It gets smaller. The closer you get to the top, the smaller it gets. So the higher you come, the less likely those that are below you have the room to stay in those places and spaces. And that was a revelation I just got releasing this work. They have to let go because there's no room for them up there. Yeah, when you was at the bottom, there was a ton of space. Remember, the wide space, the wide road, it's wide down there. But when you come up in God, you have to take the narrow path, narrow space, narrow road. As you go up the mountain, as you come up the steps, as you go up, it gets smaller. Lesser people can come along the route. The higher you get close to the top of this thing. Because not everybody can get up there. You understand what I'm saying? So yeah, you're going to be kicking people off, and you're going to be fighting people, and they going to be wanting to shoot you off the top of the mountain and the framework, because they like, oh heck no. You done left us. Framework. You want me to even say that part, Lord? I'm being also reminded, first let's talk about the Ezra. Ezra, he was building the wall. As he was building the wall, he couldn't bring everybody with him up to that space, right? So as he's up there, people were trying to get him to come down because, and it's funny, it's something I heard a family member of mine say a couple of days ago. I'm still praying for them. That they were watching something on television. And as they were watching it on television, it was about a man and a woman were in a court case. And they were talking about how much money they spent to go on a destination wedding. Okay? The person I was sitting next to as they were watching it, they were sitting there saying, well, that's what they get for having spent all that money to go all the way over there. They could spend that money on this, that, and the other instead of spending all that money on that. And the first thing that came to my mind is, if you had that much money or more, you'd have probably done that or better for yourself. But because you didn't have it and don't have it right now, you're going to speak down, pull down, or draw down that person's experience because they had it. Because the person that was saying it was in a state where they didn't have it. So because they didn't have it, in order to make themselves feel more comfortable, you know people like this, they make themselves feel more comfortable by putting down the person that did have it in order to pull them back down to the level that they're comfortable with. This is why the people were shooting me down off the top of this framework, because I was up higher than them. I was in a spiritually higher place, potentially financially higher because I was in a spiritually higher place. And then what they would do is try to use mind, thoughts, battlefield of the mind, to pull your thought processes back down to a level they're comfortable with. But when you start to fight them or fight it, what happens? And then those that are in those places that are higher, and they may be physically in the seats that you're supposed to sit in. Remember, the people that came first, and they're about to become last while you're about to be moved into the first position, are fighting. There's a spiritual fight there. Because you've come up to the higher level, and now reality has to match that. This is why false evidence comes through to appear real, to keep you in a state of waiting, keep you in a state, oh, feel comfortable here. You must stay in this level of isolation. You need to stay here in this space. Did God say I needed to stay here in this space? I don't really come into agreement with that. Because if God is telling me now is the time for me to move forward, I'm going to move forward how God tells me. Now, what I will do, and the Lord gave me this revelation, because sometimes God will put us in a state where He has us fight, and we fight in, and we go through this, and we like, okay, now I done fought, I'm ready to move forward. And He's saying, wait. And it's like, but we just went through all this fight, and you telling me now I gotta wait. Why did He tell you to wait? Because He needs to give you instructions. Because you just sat there in His presence for whatever period of time that maybe you sat in His presence. Now He needs you to sit and wait for Him to give you the instruction so you can avoid whatever the assault, the assignment, whatever the enemy is bringing towards you, against you, so that, remember, the fight that I was just in, I don't get hit from my high place. Because the enemy's always going to come and shoot at you because you got to a higher place than him. Am I making sense? Is it making sense to y'all? Has it gotten gooder and gooder to you yet? So with Ezra, he went up and got, not only did he get up to the wall, not only did he build the wall, but the very people that was trying to tear him off the wall had to turn around and, what? Be his footstools, because in Ezra 6, there was a legal reason in the notification that literally stated, what? Oh, you gotta help me now build this wall. Not only are you can't tell me to not build it, you're going to have to help me build it. Enemies shall become your footstools. The very enemies will be the same ones that will have to give up their money, as according to Proverbs 6:31, that I'm going to have to be able to take substance from your house because you came up against me to try to steal up against me. So now you're going to have to give it to me from your own house, your own substance, your own money, your own what is coming to me. Back, front, back. So with that being said, now what was I about to say? When you are in a high place, you don't come from that high place down to where your enemy wants you to come down to. So you remain in that high place. The enemy gonna have to either come up to where you are, or he ain't gonna be able to stay where he think that he's gonna be able to stay. Therefore, he's gonna be removed. He must be removed. He has to be when your time comes. He can no longer stay in your. The two of you can't exist in the same space. Have you ever seen? I've made this reference before. Have you ever seen in movies where, and in a lot of cases, it was two of the same thing. Two of the same thing could not exist in the same place at the same time. In scenarios when something was there prior that either carried something that attempted to be similar or was operating in whatever capacity it was operating in, it could not hold up the same space at the same time. Usually it caused a division of the things were destroyed simultaneously. Now, the enemies would love that. They would love to, as long as you didn't get what it was they wanted, they would love to destroy you simultaneously and you both being in the same place at the same time. But God don't work like that, because what does God do? He pulls them down in order to lift you up, to put them in the right position. And I was listening to my pastor's wife yesterday, and she was making the point of saying that everything in its timing is going to work to God's will. I don't care what they think that they done did, what they thought that they were holding up space for, they thought that they had the ability to stay in position of, it's not going to work. Because when God's good ready, pluck their little behinds up out of that spot and drop you right in. Okay? He will wait. And see, what happens is the enemy try to get us to get frustrated in that waiting process. Understand something. 9 times out of 10, just before you slip right into your spot, the enemy gonna make you so daggone frustrated because he wants you to curse your blessing moments before it happens. Perfect example. I remember a few years back. I had no money that particular day, and I was irritated, angry about the fact that I was out. I was in the store. I didn't have enough money to go get me something real cheap to eat. And I was frustrated. I was looking up something in relation to something else on my phone. And I walked through the store and I was like, man, I wish I had blah, 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 blah. Because I knew that I didn't have no money for that day. And I shouldn't have had none. But something made me, I don't know, I had to make a call in relation to something. So I had to open an application in relation to something related to my finances. When I came out of being frustrated about that thing, darn near cussing about that situation, I opened the thing up again and I was like, wait a minute. I got $250. I can go get me something to eat. Blessed be to Jesus. I had to blink twice when I opened up the application because I knew there wasn't nothing in there a minute ago. But you ever had a payment reach you just after you was complaining about their situation? It's like you knew there wasn't nothing there. But you had to deal with something else. And in your frustration, then you go back and you look and you be like, there's money here. I'm going to eat. Because sometimes God be doing that to us. Sometimes he be testing us to see that if you handle the situation that just happened prior, then he going to release that blessing. Because he allowed that thing to frustrate you. You to get that level of frustration. Because he want to test your heart posture. Then he say, okay, now I'm going to release this to you. Because you have been a good servant. So what the Lord was showing me is he brought me to a factor. A lot of us have been coming back to that point where I was talking about the woman seeing herself as a younger version of herself and an older version, one was preparing to get married. Some of us have been dealing with, you got the counterfeit that doesn't want to remove themselves from the position that we supposed to be standing in, which is the wife. Which was further confirmed. I was watching a movie yesterday, and in it there was a man who was preparing to get married. The whole film was about this man. He was preparing to get married, and in the film it starts off, dude comes into town. He just seemed like, oh, he must be this guy's friend. Let me explain something to you. He came in. Meanwhile, the guy's preparing to get married. The woman that was helping the guy that's preparing to get married was his ex. And she was complaining about the fact that I'm just going to have to deal with you getting married today and blah, 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 blah. And he's like, you shouldn't come to the wedding. She's like, I'm coming because if I see you get married, then blah, 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 I'll be able to get over it. Because if I'm there, and he said, don't sit in the front. Why this woman go get the biggest hat, the most loudest outfit, the most reddest lipstick, the orangest hat, and go sit directly in the front of the row? There are people that they can't stand the fact that you're going to get this spot. And they're there just to, I'm going to be present. Now, yes, the Lord has it in the word. He talks about the fact that your enemies are going to be sitting at the same table. Some of them will be sitting there. Some of them are going to be able to observe. This morning I was in prayer, and the Lord brought to my revelation, I don't know whether it's Ezekiel or what chapter it is, where it talks about Apothalonia, which is Jez's daughter. Catch that. She had to watch as the person was put into the right kingship just before they snatched her behind up, took her into the temple and chopped her head off. These people are not going to be able to stand in these positions. When God pulls them out, they're going to see you. Oh, they're going to see you take spot. They're going to see you take spot, but they ain't going to be able to stop anything. And not only are they going to see you take spot, God's going to take them out simply because of everything they did to try to prevent you from taking that spot. These people need to repent. That's why I always say, repent, renounce, denounce, come out of alignment, come out of agreement. God's trying to save you. But he knows the naughtiness of your heart. So even if you dare to do that, because some people, they'll literally repent, come out of alignment, come out of agreement, only to turn around and do it again, because they thought that by doing that was all that they needed to do in order to save themselves, but then turn around and did it again. God is calculating. God's keeping track of all of the times that you turned around and did it again. After you just said that you relented, repented, renounced, denounced. It's like those people, and it's funny, I was looking at a movie, it had flashed over last night, and they were talking about the fact that people will go to the club the night before and then come to church the next day and be hooting, hollering, even be singing on the gospel choir. Them the main ones. They literally be the ones that be in the club the night before, because they sat up there, went to church on Sunday, relented, repented, came out of alignment, came out of agreement, And then turned around and did it again. Then the guy was supposed to be getting married. Day of the wedding, waiting until they were at the altar. This dude comes in and he says, I'm coming to challenge you, not because he wanted his woman, not because he's like, I wanted to let this man know that I was going to draw him. In the whole daggone movie, he goes and sticks up this other place and sits in there the whole daggone movie, just holding up time. Because at the end of the film, the guy ended up getting married to the woman anyway. But the point of it is there are enemies that be trying, they just trying to hold up time. He made that big show at the dude's wedding because of the fact that he was like, I'm letting you know I'm gonna kill you, and I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that, and then he goes and tells his friend, so you really gonna kill him? And he's like, no, I'm not gonna kill him. I'm gonna actually call a truce between me and him, but I just wanted to make a public statement. This is the foolery that your enemies be doing. It's like, I'm trying to hold up all kinds of foolery to prevent you from getting down the aisle, because that's what they were trying to do. And it was funny because this brings in the next phase of my dream that I had. I saw a wedding cake that was also built in the same framework as the dream of the frame, that it was series of sheet cakes stacked on top of each other, each one getting smaller as you went up, pretty much making a mountain of cake, right? And it looked like it was strawberry shortcake with roses and stuff like that all over it. And you could take steps, but as you would step on it, it actually was doing what cake would do. If you tried to step on cake, what would happen? Your foot would start to slip into the cream and all that kind of stuff as you're trying to walk up the step of it. But I saw this particular person that it was her dressed the same way on her wedding day. We've been trying to get up these mountains to get to the top. And when you think about it, even look at it at that phase, that you are trying to get to the top of your cake. They always put the bride and the groom at the top of the cake, right? But the feet were slipping. The enemy has always been trying to keep your feet slipping to prevent you from getting to the top where you're supposed to be, at the top of your cake. Whether it's being exchanging things, whether it be causing commotion, confusion, all of these kinds of things. But it's funny. I went into a back room in the dream and I saw two hats. One was a top hat and the other was something similar to a bridal, something that would go over a crown or some type of tool stuff to go over the veil. And it was embroidered Mr. and Mrs., but it was inverted, meaning it was the inside facing outward. I'm not quite certain what that meant, but I'm going to come back because I think I'm at the end of this video.